Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Spirituality for Badass Babes. Today, I have this badass babe, Heather Danielle, who is a beautiful, beautiful soul. She's a psychic medium and spiritual coach, which is very similar to what we do. This is why we clash together and work well together. Hello, Heather. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. I love being around other spiritual peeps and other badasses. So this is right up my alley.
Heck yes. So, speaking of badasses, what makes you a spiritual badass?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think the number one thing that really makes me a badass is that I wasn't always spiritual. I didn't always know I was a psychic medium. I actually taught myself. Like I had no idea it was a gift. Like I thought it was a gift, but I realized it's a skill. And so now, like that's what I love to do is open other people up, whether it's a psychic and mediumship or just their own intuition. Like that's what I love to do. So, and that's like my life purpose now.
Amazing, beautiful. So let's talk about that. You said you didn't always know that you had these gifts, so to say. I personally believe that every single one of us has them. We just need to tap into them. How did you discover that you have these gifts, that you have this beautiful way of connecting to the other worlds and
Oh,
really getting in tune with your intuition? How did you discover that?
That's exactly right. Everyone has it. It's just that not everyone believes it, I guess. I feel like they feel like, oh no, they say that, but that's not really me. And I feel like that's where I was. And I was like almost 30 years old. And all of a sudden I got sick one day at work and I just ended up like blacking out, not losing consciousness. And I fell to the ground and I started convulsing in my first ever seizures, right? And the doctors, of course, couldn't find out what was going on. They had no idea what was happening. But one thing I did not tell anyone at that time was when I felt myself falling to the ground, when my vision went black, I heard this voice and it sounded like myself in a way. Like now I think it's probably like my higher self, if you will. But I heard this voice and it was yelling at me and it said, enough. And I was like, I had no idea what that meant. But now looking back, it was like I was stressing myself out. I wasn't listening to my intuition, right? I was totally putting other people before myself. I was just trying to make myself so small. And once I realized that and I started just going down my spiritual path, that's when things started to change. And you want to know something really amazing? My seizures stopped. So I ended up noticing that some of my food was also, causing me anxiety, causing my body issues and things like that. But once I started meditating a little bit and tuning with myself, realizing some foods didn't help either, I was able to slowly get off my seizure medications. And I never had seizures before that day. And so I suffered with the seizures for about, I think it was about 2 years before I was finally able to get off of the medications. And then it just escalated from there. My meditation ended up being a place where I got insight. And then it snowballed. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Beautiful. You and I actually have a lot more in common than I thought. I personally had a very similar journey. I was very, very sick of very bad IBS. I was literally going blind at the age of 23. Doctors could not know what was going wrong with me. They had no idea. Like I had so much anxiety, so much stress, so much depression, like insomnia. I had insomnia for over 10 years. And once my spirituality like grew into me, I'm a little bit different because I remember when I was 5, 6 years old, I would see spirits and my mom thought I was absolutely crazy, but I remember vividly seeing them. And I wrote about this in my book. There was this one man who would come visit me almost every single night in the corner of my room, almost every night. And then we moved houses. He didn't come by. He came by like once or twice in the new house, and then he kind of just disappeared. But I always remember like being connected to this other world. But yours came a lot later. And yeah, similar to you, like I completely healed myself by doing Reiki, quantum healing, like all of these, like your body is designed to heal itself. Like some people just do not understand that, do not believe it, do not appreciate that either. Like your body is literally meant to heal itself from anything and everything, whether that's insomnia or seizures like you. And it's so beautiful that we have this capability of our own, like as humans, we can do this. It's so beautiful.
Amazing. Like what we are actually capable of doing. It truly is. And, you know, I just have to tell you, it's so amazing when I hear people saying, oh, I used to see spirits and things like that when they were kids, because it's like, I'm so jealous. I don't know if anyone, other spiritual badasses feel that same way. Like, I wish I had an imaginary friend, right? I used to make them up. But now it's like, I realize that a lot of us are probably sensitive to the energies around us. Like, maybe we don't see them, but we actually feel it within our bodies. And so then when we grow up, we're like empaths, if you will, right? And we have this ability to really notice it, but we don't realize that because we're not taught that as kids. We're taught like ghosts don't exist. You know what I mean? It's nothing. It's your imagination, right? And then just like the snowball effect. And then we don't even realize it's affecting our health, like you and I, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful. So tell me how you teach intuition now. And obviously there's different types of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. Let's chat about a little bit about what the differences are. We've chatted a little bit on this podcast about what the differences are already, but let's go dive deep into which one is and then how we could get in tune, because some people have one, some people have all, and some people don't know which ones they have. So how can they find out which ones they have and start really paying attention to their own intuition of how these sources are coming to them?
Oh my goodness. I love this. I love this because you always hear about clairvoyant, right? They're like, oh, she's clairvoyant, right? But clairvoyant is just one of the main clairs, right? And that's clear seeing. So some of us are big seers. And how you would know that is if you pay attention to little details. Like, are you that type of person? You know, do you notice the little things like when you first meet someone, right? So think about this. When you first meet someone, what is the first thing that you remember of them? Do you remember like their face? Do you remember like their makeup, their hair, right? Or are you someone who remembers their voice, right? Because that's really more clairaudient, right? So you're going to be hearing either with your physical ear or you're going to be hearing like voices in your mind, right? Don't worry, you're not going
spiritual
crazy.
ears.
Yes.
Spiritual ears.
I love it. Your spiritual ears. Yes. You know what I mean? Or are you one of them that are like the clear smelling, right? So, and clear tasting, you know, clear gustance, right? Are you that one? Like, so you ever hear that term, right? They left a bad taste in my mouth. Right. So when you meet someone, and if you're saying that, then you're the one that's really going to have taste. So going ahead and paying attention when you notice those tastes when you're around someone new, or even when you're just maybe deep into thought, because I notice that spirit also reaches out to us when we're in the zone, right? Because then all of a sudden, you might smell something and it smells just like your grandmother, you know, when she passed. And it's her trying to say hi. And for some reason, she's able to get through to you in that moment because your brain, your thoughts are minimized at that time because you're focused, right? But my biggest clair is going to be clairsentient. So I'm a really big feeler. So I remember when I was a teenager, I didn't know what it was. I used to go up to people and they would be like, oh, my hand hurts. I'm like, my hand hurts too. It's your hand. I'm feeling your pain right now. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And so that's a really big clairsentient. But there's actually several other clairs that people don't even think about, right? So there's a clair that if you are really sensitive to spirit, right? Ghost, if you will, right? Past loved ones, right? There's clear communication too. That means that you're really good at articulating, you know, conversation. You're really good at expressing your voice. I actually created a guide on this. So I actually created a guide called the Lightworker's Guide to the Clairs. So they can always reach out to me if they want to grab their copy. But it's really cool because if you notice like, oh my gosh, right, I really want to see ghosts, or, you know, I want to see my past loved one, or I want to see auras, right? Whatever it is, if you're a big seer, then the key is going to be you focusing on seeing things throughout your life, you know, throughout your day, right? Like the pictures that you see, the sidewalks that you walk on, paying attention to those little details. Right. And I have a really funny story about this because I love psychic and mediumship, right? I love doing readings, I love doing healings, and I love teaching it. That's my favorite thing, right? Because I want to give the power back to everyone, right? But it was so funny. I'm working and I was really trying to get, this is a few years ago, I was really trying to get names of the past loved ones in spirit. And I was having a difficult time because I'm not a really big clairaudient. So if they would tell me their names, I wouldn't hear it in my spiritual ear. So what I ended up, you know, I was practicing, and then finally someone came up to me, and it was totally not anything to do with spiritual stuff. And they're like, wow, Heather, you don't remember anyone's name that you come across. And I was like, Oh my gosh, you're right. I don't even know the people's names in my daily life that I meet. Like, how in the world am I going to know like a ghost that comes to me, a spirit that comes to me, and when they tell me their name. So it was so funny. As soon as I started practicing in my personal life, like how to get, how remembering people's names, then guess what? Now I can get names from people in spirit.
That's beautiful. What a fun story as well. It's funny because I always say, usually, like, time and space doesn't exist in the spirit world. Same with names. Like, we as humans, we give names to things, but what you think their name is, someone else might perceive that name as something completely different, and it might be the same spirit. But we as humans, we want to name everything. We want to put a timeline to everything because we're humans and we like live in a linear 3D plane. But up there, it doesn't really exist. None of that is
Nope.
real up there. So what I might perceive as my spirit guide's name, you might perceive it as something else, and we might have the same spirit guide.
Oh
So
my gosh.
let's chat more about like the different clairs, which I'm so glad that you brought up the different ones, because usually most people, they have the top four. Those are the ones that people are most familiar with, which I'm so glad that you brought up the smell and the taste, so which is fantastic. So how would one go developing more of these skills, developing more of these different clairs that they have? And can we just decide if we have a clair or not? Does it naturally come to us? Like, how do we do that? I know the answer, but let's share with the audience.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Well, the thing is that whatever one that you want, like my thing is that's what you have to that you have to concentrate on then. If you want to hear better, then hear better with your spiritual ears, then you have to hear better in your personal life. That's kind of like my philosophy, if you will. And it's like you're going to be more natural to some clairs than you are with others. So sometimes for me, I really have to pay attention to my clairvoyance, right? My clear seeing, because I have mad ADD. I do not notice the things around me, so like I will trip over something right in front of me, right? And so I have to work a little bit on my clairvoyance because it's not really as easy for me to see. But when I am practicing and I do pay attention, then all of a sudden I can, oh wow, it just really just escalates, if you will, like it really my clairvoyant skills. But I'm curious too. So you said that you knew a little bit about it. What is your technique?
So I mean,
Curious.
I believe everyone has all different types of clairs. I don't believe you. I believe you can develop some of them. I don't believe everyone has all of them. You can develop them, and as you get more spiritual and as you get more in depth into the different clairs, you can start developing different ones. Me personally, I have all four of the main ones. My strongest ones are claircognizant and clairvoyant.
Oh, you got that. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I think too, because I'm not a really good listener either. So I noticed that I'm not really good with clairaudient, and I feel that you are right. Some of us, we might not have all of them, or if we really do want to work on it, I feel like you could, but it just might take that extra time, and sometimes we don't have that. It's almost like just making sure the ones that you're good with get stronger, and that's how spirit's going to communicate with you too. So if you're ever having to make a decision or a choice and you're not sure, then going ahead and knowing how spirit communicates with you is really going to help you make that choice. Because if all of a sudden, if I have a bad feeling about it in my gut, then that's my sign. Or if all of a sudden another good one I am that I'm really good with is the claircognizance, which we haven't talked about, which is the clear knowing. It's like all I just know it.
Hold on.
Times before I even found out I had some really.
Hold on, it froze up. Okay. All right, let's redo that. You stopped at claircognizance. The beginning of it. So whatever you said after that, none of that was recorded.
Okay. So claircognizance, I don't think we've talked about that one yet. So that's like clear knowing. So that is one that I feel like a lot of people might even dismiss and they won't even know that they have it, right? Because it's like all of a sudden, it's like you might not have any other reason why you feel the way that you do. So I feel a lot of people, when they have claircognizance, it's like if you have self-doubt, then it's really hard for you to trust in that. But it's really amazing because if you do, then the stronger it's going to get. And then the more you trust in yourself and the stronger stronger it's going to get, and it's going to be easier. I have some really cool things that have happened with the claircognizance back in my day before I got woken up. It's like some fun little, well, I mean, not fun, but crazy things that happened that proved the claircognizance. And I think all of us know that, right?
For sure. I definitely think like spirit reaches out to you, which I like to call it the path of least resistance. So the path of that, like where you were saying is that you're not paying attention or you're just focused on a particular time. That's when you smell like that is your path of least resistance. When you're completely disconnected from the outside world. This is why spirit comes to us when we're meditating, when we're right about to fall asleep. Like your dreams are spirits talking to you most of the time, because that it might be your path of least resistance. So we really need to start paying attention to how, if you're looking to get into any kind of mediumship, any kind of psychic abilities and trying to really develop them, like really paying attention to how these feelings are coming to you, how these spirits are coming to you. Do you start listening to things? Like, do you have this inner knowing? Is your gut speaking to you? Like, do you start smelling things? Like really start paying attention when you're disconnected from the regular world, when you're not paying attention to what is going on around you. Like your brain isn't going a million miles an hour with that little monkey brain like most of us normally do have. And just really when we're focused, when we're relaxed, when we're meditating, that's when spirit comes to us. Do you have any fun exercises that people could do to develop their intuition?
Ooh, okay. So my thing is that I know everyone doesn't might have time to practice and do a lot of work, right? So my thing is that spirit wants to talk to you anyways, during your day, right? So while you're cooking or whatever, or when you're trying to like live your life. So if you can practice some of these things, it can really help you. And these are things that you can do during the day, right? So one thing is first figuring out, how do you think spirit communicates with you? Kind of like what we just talked about, right? So the feeling, the hearing, the seeing, right? And then going ahead and then being like, okay, you're waking up and then you say, hey, will my Amazon package arrive today? I love that. Will I get this in the mail today? And then tune in and see what you get and have fun with it, right? And then you keep on going. You can like get a girlfriend, and then text each other, be like, okay, what color shirt am I wearing right now? Just fun things like that. And then try to pick it up in the ways that you feel like you can, but be open to possibilities, because you might have different ways that you're actually getting information, you don't realize it. Okay. So another favorite one of mine is, you're in a building too, like the elevator doors, like which elevator door is going to open up first, playing around with that, because it's going to be getting to know yourself and then practicing how you get that information, right? So like the whole like heads and tails, right? With the coins, all those things, they do work. And then the more that you keep on trusting yourself, it's going to get stronger. So those are my favorite ways. And then of course, if you are in meditation, it'd be awesome if you can, reach out to spirit, say, hey, please help me see how you are talking to me. And then maybe you can even get a message, right? So you can even work your way up to see if you're able to get those messages in meditation.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly how I teach people exactly the same thing. Like really start having fun with it, adding psychic abilities and intuition into your day-to-day life. Like, oh, did the mail call? Oh, I got a text. Let me guess who this text is from. Like you can start adding these little snippets into your daily life, and then it becomes fun and it becomes more natural. So you did say something which this was my problem when I started first being a psychic, started being a medium myself, is not trusting yourself. Having those thoughts, is it me? Is it my mental mind? Am I just making this up? What do you have to say to someone that just is thinking, am I making this up? Am I going crazy? Or is spirit actually talking to me? How do you get to that I trust myself?
Oh my gosh. It is so funny because both you and I have been there, right? Where we thought we were crazy, because even the beginning, at least for me, it felt like I was making stuff up. It felt like I was going crazy. It felt like I was trying to push things together, right? But it's really funny because the first thing that you really want to do, and I think really helped me out, was that I wrote things down when I was right. I wrote things down when there was a coincidence, or I wrote things down when it was true. The Amazon package did come, right? Oh, I did do that. And I even thought back on my life on times when I was right. Ooh, when I had a dream come true, or when I had that feeling and it worked out. Because then what's going to happen is you're going to compile evidence, right? To show the other side of yourself that's doubting you, doubting yourself, right? No, there is something here with it, right? And I'm really big too. Like if you need to ask for a sign from spirit, then you can ask too and be like, okay, like, am I going crazy? Can you send me this? I usually give them 3 days. I do believe in the signs too. And that's kind of like what I do. And then the more that you trust yourself during the day, right, during your days, where you stop doubting, like, oh wait, what should I do, what should I, should I go here, should I go, little things that you try to decide during your day, right? Should I go to Target, should I cook this for lunch, like little things like that. Then the more you trust yourself in those little ways, then it's going to show when you start trying to hone in on your gifts, your abilities.
So good. So many good tips, so many good golden nuggets. Oof. So, do you have any final tips and tricks on how anyone can develop their intuition, any kind of psychic abilities or mediumship? Let's talk about mediumship for a little bit for a second. Yes, before we finish off. So, how did you realize that spirit, like the dead, and talk to you? Let's explain what the difference is first, before, if anyone listening doesn't know the difference between psychic abilities and mediumship, which is technically kind of the same thing, sort of, what the differences are. Let's explain that first.
Okay. So a psychic is basically going to connect of things of this world usually, right? So it's going to be connected to your aura, your energy, your life path, you know what I mean? Your situation, your life, that kind of thing, right? It's the best way to describe it. With mediumship, you're actually connecting to the other side. You're talking to others who have passed on, right? And so a lot of times too, you might have to raise your vibration in order to connect to them, right? But some of us might be vibrating higher than we think, okay? So for me, I actually joined a psychic and mediumship development group, right? And so I sat there for months trying to connect to spirits, right? Via mediumship, right? I tried to connect to the other side, and I wasn't getting anything. I was so jealous of all these people who were getting it. And it was really funny because as they were connecting, I was like, ooh, I could really go for some potato chips right now. These are my thoughts, right? I'm like, I really want some potato chips, better made potato chips. And I was like, oh my gosh, Heather, you need to start eating before you come here, right? Because you don't even like potato chips. So why in the world would you be craving them? And so finally, I ended up saying to the person that we were connecting to, we're connecting to one of her loved ones in spirit. I was like, I'm just curious, did they like potato chips? And she was like, yes, that's all they ate was better made potato chips. And I was like, oh, I think I'm onto something. So then like the next time we connected, I was like, I smell cinnamon buns. Like all I got was food. And then apparently it was her birthday, and that's what she always said for her birthday was cinnamon buns, right? So I was like, oh, now I'm getting it. I'm getting how they communicate, right? You think that it's something like crazy, like you're going to all of a sudden like see them manifest, which you might if you keep on practicing, right? But it's like you're going to see them, but it's more about them talking to you through impressions, right? Through like your thoughts and that kind of thing. So you actually might be more connected than you think. So a lot of times we get sad, like when we think about our past loved one, right? Like out of the blue, all of a sudden we start thinking about them, and we start thinking about a memory when you were younger. Well, the thing is, it's probably them standing next to you, downloading those thoughts into you, right? We just don't even understand that. So if you want to practice mediumship, the number one thing that I always say is to try the meditation, right? Getting into your meditative state, and then practicing what it feels like just to be in your own energy, and then inviting one of your own past loved ones into your energy, and then seeing what kind of impressions that you get.
Beautiful. Yeah, for me, mediumship kind of like fell in my lap. Like I wasn't expecting to like reach out to the dead. They just all came at me at once. I was like, what is going on? Like this is a completely different energy that I'm used to. These are not spirits. These are past ones. Very, very different. I was like, oh, okay. And then they like started bringing me messages, and it was really beautiful. One of my girlfriends, I don't think I've ever shared this story yet. One of my girlfriends, her mother passed away, and she didn't tell anyone that her mother passed away yet because her mother was sick for a long time. And her mother came to me as soon as she passed, and I messaged her. I was like, I don't know if you need to hear this, but your mother just came to me, and she like started bawling on the phone. And she's like, I didn't even tell anyone that my mother passed yet. And she trusted me. And after that day, like more and more spirits started coming to me. And it was so beautiful, such a beautiful moment in my life to be able to hold that love for her at that point, as well as like open up this new world for me. It was beautiful. So very grateful for that. So now, any final tips, tricks on how anyone can develop their intuition, tap into these different energies, or any other tips that you might have for people?
I think the number one thing is to know and believe that you have this. Like me and you both have totally different, experiences, and it just proves that we all do. It's just whenever that we tap into it. So that's the first thing. And to really know that like you are worthy of it, you definitely have it. It is just tapping into it. And the more that you care for yourself, because if you're doing this work or you're into this work, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're going to need more self-care than a normal person, right? Because you're drawn to this. So the more that you take care of yourself, and the easier it's probably going to be to hear, see, feel, or just to know, what's going on, right? With your intuition and with psychic and mediumship.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Heather. Where can people find you? Where can they develop their own skills with you? And where can they get that light code as well that you mentioned?
Oh, yes. So if you go to, I'm the real Heather Danielle, right, .com. That's my website. And if you go on there too, you just sign up for the free guide, and that's going to be the Claire guide, where you can really hone in. It's like 20 or so pages where you can just really hone in on what your clairs are, and then also what you can do to really strengthen them. And then you can find me mostly on Facebook at Heather Danielle Psychic Medium.
Thank you so much, Heather. This was so beautiful. I think people are going to walk away being inspired and wanting to talk to ghosts all of a sudden.
Yes, it's the best.
Thank you so much, Heather. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Join us for this free 90-minute masterclass and find out how the Rebel Entrepreneur Method can change your life and business. For the badass spiritual entrepreneur that is ready to step into limitless abundance and consistently bring in 10, 20, 30K months. To join the masterclass, visit aniahalama.com/rebel-method.